Hello and welcome to pnclounge.com. My name is Shoaib and today I have a special guest with me. Her name is Stephanie. She's a program manager and a recent PMP certified. That's the most important part because she's the one who has taken up the new PMP, the changed PMP after January to 2021. She comes with around 5 years of project management experience in different verticals like be it startups or non-profits, and she's doing pretty well in her professional career, which I can definitely vouch for looking at her LinkedIn profile. So, thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. It's actually funny. One of the first videos I've watched was your video when I started trying to pursue my project management certification. And I think it was the one
Wow.
that says, why not to get it? Now that I'm like going back, I'm like, oh my God, you look so familiar. Oh, I watched your video.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay, so let's start this off. How did it all happen? Did you always plan to take up the PMP after 2nd of Jan, or were you planning before 2nd of Jan? Because I know a lot of people that were rushing to get certified before this change comes in. So, what's your story? What happened? Why did you take up the exam after 2nd January?
Yeah. So my story is actually really exciting because it was unexpected. So
Mhm.
I took on during COVID to really refine my skill set and took on studying for the project management certification back maybe in October. And I really studied, in hopes to pass the old PMP exam. So I studied really hard and spent many times taking practice exams and reading my notes. Um, but yeah, just like you mentioned in December, there was a really tight schedule for everyone to book their exam before they changed the new exam in 2021. And I was one of those people. And during that time, I was really, balancing work, studying, social life and everything to get those exams, those practice exams in line to make me feel confident to pass the exam. I did take the exam end of December, which was December 26th after Christmas. And unfortunately, I did not pass on my first attempt. So
Mhm.
at that point, I had to really take a look and see, okay, do I want to give the exam again? I know that there's going to be brand new materials. But of course, my mindset and my goal was always to get my project management certification. So come what may, I was going to work hard and I was going to make sure I passed. So that's what I did. I worked with Varun from EDU HubSpot, and he's been my mentor. And literally, I don't think I would have passed without him. He was amazing. He gave me great content. He pretty much guided me and said, okay, well, now there's going to be a new agile methodologies that is going to be introduced in the exam. So we really need to refine that. It used to be that you were working on 5 domains. You have initiation, planning, executing, monitoring, control, and closing. And all of the materials that I studied, all the notes, all of the boot camp I did with him, 50% of that was going to be wiped and introducing the new agile processes, which is mostly focused on people, process, business environment, right? Um, so although I felt like, wow, this is going to be a little bit challenging, I said, you know what? There's a risk and an opportunity, right? You can look at this as, oh, you have 3 attempts to pass. It might be a risk or it might be an opportunity, right? So I definitely went very positive, thinking, you know what? I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to try again. And it was a lot of hard work. I maybe practiced over 2,000 questions, different practice exams. I would wake up at 5 in the morning, work out, study until 10 in the morning, then work. Then I would continue after work until 11 o'clock at night, studying, refining my
Wow.
notes. So I did that day in, day out. So the exam changed January 2nd. And on January 11th was the day I took the exam. And I was fortunate to say I passed, but it was a lot of hard work. There's no shortcuts. So it takes a lot of dedication and belief in yourself and the ability for you to persevere through challenges.
I really like that answer because you use two words, hard work and dedication. A lot of people think that just like other professional certifications out there, it would be easier, relatively easier to get PMP. But PMP is one certificate that definitely requires hard work and a lot of dedication. So yeah, thanks for sharing your story, Stephanie. And uh, how was this new exam like? Because you have given both the exams. So
Mhm.
can you give us some specifics of what exactly changed in terms of, what is the total time that you have, the number of breaks? I think that has also changed. And then there's the types of questions which have changed. Earlier it used to be, only multiple
Mhm.
choice questions, but now you have different types of questions as well. How was the new exam like?
Yeah, so the new exam structure is not just multiple choice like you mentioned. You're spot on. There are
Hmm.
some like matching components, so you might have to pick the best two answers out of a list of like multiple answers that they
Hmm.
give you. You have to, match certain things. So if there's a definition or certain, let's think of like a product owner, right? What is his responsibilities? You would have to match kind of all the options to see, okay, that goes with that, and just kind of be able to utilize that. I didn't get the graphs in which you have to pinpoint, let's say, the burn down chart or the burn
Yeah.
up chart, as though it's indicated in the outline for the new PMP exam. In my experience, I didn't have that, so I was fortunate. But yeah, I definitely did have the multiple choice, the matching. I think, of course, like we all know, PMP is very situational based. So you have to really get your concepts down. So really understanding, okay, what does a project owner do? What is the mindset of an agile team? So continuously improving, constant feedback, being able to know what stand-ups are, what did I do yesterday? What am I working on today? What are the roadblocks? Kanban boards, visual representation of what to do, doing, done lists. I would say that there was no math questions for me. There was no
Mhm.
calculations, maybe like two max. Um,
Mhm.
so I know a lot of folks get scared with math. I would say don't worry about it. But yeah, just really hone in on that. In terms of the number of breaks, we did get two breaks, so you had the option to take those. And for me, my process, I was scheduled to take the exam. I think it was at 6 o'clock on a Sunday night, but I kept having the system crash because the application was running in my background. I didn't know, so it was causing me a little bit of anxiety. But then I was able to get it up and running and still be calm. And so utilizing those breaks to make sure you you realign and reassess. Okay, I just went through
Mhm.
that. Let me continue. And just like the old PMP exam, I would say that you have to be sure of your answers in the first 90 questions that you get, because you cannot go
Mhm.
back.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Cool.
would.
Cool.
Yeah, I won't say I know exactly the amount of questions. I think it's pretty similar, if not just reduced by a little bit, like 20 or something like that.
Okay. Cool. And then, like they mentioned that you are going to have 50% agile and then 50% the traditional waterfall model. How true is that? Do you think that you saw 50% agile questions in the new exam?
Yeah, I think that is true. I think
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
I think a lot
Mm-hmm.
of the questions I felt were more catered to, of course, communication management, stakeholder management, agile. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely knowing kind of what those definitions are, how does that process work,
Mm-hmm.
allows you to kind of step into the mindset of, okay, now I'm working with an agile team, right? So now, because I'm in an agile team, how would I respond to this conflict?
Mm-hmm.
Do I step in as the PMP usually would to kind of like mitigate a problem, or do I let them resolve themselves, right? And then only intervene if I see that it's not resolved itself. So kind of the mindset that you have to go into is I saw a lot of the questions were in agile.
Wow, that's cool. So, yeah, the situation that you explained is more to do with agile teams, where agile teams are expected to be self organizing teams, and the project manager or the scrum master, as they call it, is not really expected to, uh, get in hands on and sort issues out, because agile teams are supposed to be self organizing teams. But then on the traditional side, if you're a project manager, you are the one who's stepping in everything possible. So yeah, that's the mindset change that you talked about. Really like that example.
Yeah.
And then since you have taken up both the exams, you've been fortunate or unfortunate. How would you rate the difficulty level of the new exam? Was it more difficult than the previous one?
um, I would say because the math scared me a little bit in the previous one, a little bit,
Mm,
but I would
mm,
say a lot of people, I've heard a lot of people say that maybe the new one is easier. But I would say you have to study just as hard. Like, I don't think
oh, yeah.
that it's so easy that anyone can pass.
Mm,
I passed maybe in a short amount of time in the new year, but that's like the highlight reel, right? No one sees the months and months and months and months and waking up at 5 in the morning and studying of
yeah,
preparation
yeah.
that got me there, right? So I studied maybe 800 practice questions in the old PMP and about 2,000 in the new. So this is
Wow.
a total maybe, of almost 3,000 practice questions. So it's not easy. I maybe passed it in a short amount of time in that first week, that the new year began and the exam
Mhm.
was out in the public, but it really takes a lot of hard work. And I won't say it's easy. I say if you work really hard, you'll definitely be successful.
Wow, good. Good that reminded me of the schedule that you talked about earlier, because I really like that, and I really wanted to kind of reiterate what you've mentioned: waking up at 5 a.m., studying till 10 a.m., and then sleeping at 11 p.m. at night. So yeah, that's the kind of dedication PMP kind of requires. So thanks for sharing that. And in addition to that answer, my next question would be around the resources, the books, what were the stuff that you went through to prepare for the new PMP. Now, did you study anything extra for the new PMP versus what you've already studied for the older one?
So yeah, so my secret weapon was Varun. He was my mentor during the entire process at EDU HubSpot. And even in
Hmm.
the previous, materials that I used was just his guidance, just his materials. If there was
Hmm.
additional books or anything, it came from him, of what he thought were just practice exams, right? Like if I already solved his and I maybe am familiar with his, here's a little extra to make it like see if you can get those correct. um,
Hmm.
but for the new exam I continued with Varun actually has two courses. He has an Agile one and then he has the PMP. He let me use some of the materials for the Agile, which he was still creating the new videos for the new exam, right? But he was giving me the previous Agile videos that on certain topics that he thought maybe would apply to get the concepts down. So I really
Hmm.
stood with Varun's material. Now he's been able to merge, his new videos together, which is the new PMP exams cater to agile practices and things like that. But yeah, I relied sorely on his guidance and leadership. And I mean, he is definitely a servant leader. He puts people first. He was able to communicate with me via email, and then he would call me too in case I was concerned about a certain area. Okay, I don't feel that comfortable in risk management. Can you help me understand this concept? Can you help me understand that? So I would say that's the plug. If anyone needs help, definitely reach out to him because he has helped me tremendously.
Okay, so shout out to Varun here, but he's not sponsoring this video.
No,
I
he's not.
wish he was. But anyways, let's wrap this up. Let's talk about some of your tips for
Yeah.
anyone who's taking up the new PMP exam, except for reaching out to Varun.
Yeah. I would say one of the things I did also was download the new project management handbook, like that, the guideline of the exam that pretty much breaks down the three new processes and then gives you tasks, right? So it might
Mhm,
say, stakeholder management, and you might hear some certain tasks that have to do with communication. Just what I did is I looked at each description and say, okay, well, this one belongs in initiation. I put initiation there, or communication, or risk management, and then remember to go back in my studies and take a look at that a little bit further. So
mhm,
I would say that gives you a guide to kind of see what they're really focusing on and what maybe you shouldn't focus on so much, and just hone
okay,
in on that. I would say
mhm,
definitely dedicate time I mean, time is what you need in order to pass this exam. I mean, I definitely knew that I had to, take care of work and, be able to study and, your personal life. So if you can carve out time earlier in the day, your mind works better early at 5 in the morning. For me, it does.
Mm,
I mean, the earlier the better because your mind is malleable and be able to receive more information better. Also depends on your type of personality. If you're a night owl, maybe that works for you. Yeah, and if you're early bird, maybe this works for you. But just make sure you have the time set aside for
mhm,
this specifically. Um, Also, develop a schedule with the time. Develop a schedule. Block out maybe 3 hours. If it's too much to do it, break it down 1 hour here, 2 hours there. But give yourself those time blocks to make sure you're doing the studying. I
mhm,
would say definitely take a lot of practice exams, a lot of questions, just to get you familiar with the pressure that sometimes comes up with being timed. And
mhm,
a lot of times, I think that one of the things that I learned in my previous experience with the old exam was that the pressure of the time sometimes is eternal. You think that you might be running out of time, so you don't read all the way through, which is important to also take these practice exams to practice the fact that you are able to read it, understand it, and answer correctly. Also,
mhm,
90% of the time, your first instant of your first answer that you select is correct. It's usually
mhm.
sometimes we doubt ourselves and we overanalyze and think too much about it, but sometimes you know it and it's there. You should go with that instant. So yeah, I think that if you can have a mentor or some kind of course, um, do so because it's really helpful to be able to know, okay, these are the areas that, I scored low in, communication, risk management, or whatever. You're able to go ahead and say, okay, well, now I need to read on this because now I know exactly what I got incorrect.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that really stands out with me, based on the answers that you've shared, is the number of practice questions that you've done. That's outstanding. I think 2000 is like taking up the PMP exam 10 times before actually taking up the PMP exam. So, yeah, I think, if you practice that many questions, you get a really good sense and idea of what you can expect out of the exam.
Mhm.
So thank you so much for those tips, and thank you so much for taking the time out, Stephanie. Really, really appreciate it. And I'm pretty sure the community over at pmclounge.com, our community, is going to appreciate you sharing your experience and your tips. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.